destruction of Gorka's factory is complete, Imperial forces head for the evacuation point, but their hit-and-run invasion of fungus has stirred up a hornet's nest. Ork forces swarm from across the planet to engage the human invaders, but Dakun and Damit's forces will have ample time to get safely off-world, provided an army of Ork speed freaks headed across the Gorgolia mountain pass can be stopped. Commander Vessel's defence forces head into the pass to intercept the Orks before they have the opportunity to tear through Dakun and Damit's battered and exhausted armies. But as Vessel's forces make their way through the misty pass, he calls a sudden halt. He senses something. Not Orks. Something worse. An unspeakable evil which does not sleep. His eyes bulge with fear as something stirs in the mist. Suddenly explosions tear up the ground around him. Vessel spots a great watchtower manned by Chaos Space Marines. It's a trap! Figures and vehicles emerge from the fog. On the right flank, a Black Legion retinue, a raptor cult and a forlorn hope detachment are detected. On the left, attack bikes roar into sight and tear through Imperial ranks, cutting down troops before them. The bike assault is made all the more devastating by heavy las cannon fire which covers their attack. A company of land raiders are upon the Imperials. Vessel desperately tries to rally his troops, but he cannot react quickly enough. Explosions tear through the ranks, and the screams of his men fill the air. Things look bleak for Vessel and his forces. A hail of missiles erupt from the other side of the mountains. The first squadron of stormtroopers and Valkyries are completely annihilated by the terrible firestorm. Imperial forces fight back and begin to repulse the ambush. The Chaos formations retreat behind the mountain pass peaks, but they are far from defeated. Vessel knows these moments of respite will be brief, and they have paid a heavy price for it. Within minutes, the mountain pass has been transformed into a cauldron of glowing flame and horrendous cries. The smouldering wreckage of vehicles is strewn across the pass. Those that manage to escape the burning vehicles do so ablaze. Staggering, screaming, these human torches quickly crumple to the ground. Their lives are extinguished long before their bodies are. At the heart of the hurricane, Commander Vessel orders all of his remaining troops to retreat back to the entrance to the pass and to identify the enemy positions. He is shocked and appalled to see that his force is now at half the strength it was mere moments ago. He will have to be swift to reform the lines if his forces are to stand any chance of survival. Chaos forces begin the game flanking the Imperial army. There is one primary objective and two secondary objectives, and Imperial forces begin the mission holding the primary objective. Imperial victory will see the Imperial forces drive back the enemy and allow them to escape with Damit and Dakun's forces. A draw will facilitate the Imperial forces of Dakun and Damat evacuating, but Vessel's force will be stranded on the Ork world of fungus left to their fate. A Chaos victory will see not only Vessel's Imperial forces annihilated, but the Imperial landing vessels will be destroyed by the Orks, and none shall leave fungus. As fast as lightning, Black Legion bikes charge at the Rough Riders. The roar of vengeance terrifies the horses, who neigh, kick and threaten to dislodge their riders. Despite their best efforts, the riders are unable to launch a counter-charge, and instead, bite bolters sing, cutting down the noble riders in their droves. The remnants of a company of stormtroopers launch an attack upon the formation of land raiders. Their fire is inaccurate and ineffective. The response is anything but. Las cannon fire makes short work of the 7th Air Cavalry. Only 5 soldiers survive the carnage. 3 vultures hover in the air and promptly respond with a hail of long-range missiles on the land radar. But only 1 tank is destroyed. But the sacrifices of the Rough Riders and the 7th Air Cavalry buys the Imperial Army enough time to reorganise their front line, forming up in a semicircle at the entrance of the pass. A wall of laser rifles now stands ready to repel wave after wave of enemy assault, but no attack is forthcoming. Instead, the Chaos Marines go into overwatch. A distant rumble directs the gazes of Vessel and his men to the horizon. A towering column of dust announces that a huge cult of speed is approaching, bringing with it a tide of despair. Tighten up the ranks! Prepare for impact! Fight to the last man! But in their hearts, Vessel and his men know his words are hollow. The coup de grace is near. Death seems certain. Other armies would have already fled, but the 18th Regiment was forged in blood and steel on an endless war on the edge of this lost and forgotten galaxy. They will fight until their guns are silenced. But then, in their darkest moment, Vessel's astropath cries out as he hears a voice from the ether. Iman Cuvenian il, sere you despair, till back na I galad, unseen ar Uriel, seer I Eldar will cost we seen. While both Imperial and Chaos armies drop into a global overwatch, the Speed Freak army races into sight. The Black Legion are content to await the arrival of the Ork forces to maximise their advantage. From left and right, two huge columns of Speed Freaks emerge from the mountain passes. They may be unruly, but the sheer size of this pack is formidable. Their vehicles roar and rumble into position, readying themselves to launch a full-out assault upon the beleaguered Imperial forces. But while they do, the Imperial army is bolstered by the might of the Eldar. Unlike their Ork counterparts, the Eldar silently slide into the battlefield. On the left side, a formation of Falcons and a Guardian Warhost and Wave Serpents lock behind a mountain peak. On the right, a jet bike formation and more Wave Serpents, this time transporting Aspect Warriors, take up their positions. On the right, a jet bike formation and more Wave Serpents, this time transporting Aspect Warriors, take up their positions. While the forces manoeuvre, the Neptune formation of Vultures launches an audacious attack upon the Raptor cult, but the protection offered by the forest and the mighty armour of the Marines is more than capable of soaking up the incoming fire. Night Spinners, positioned in the heart of the Imperial lines, hurl their filamentous webs into the sky. The strange alien technology falls amongst the Chaos attack bites, slicing through 4 of them. But these are just overtures to the festival of slaughter that awaits. Barely suffering any losses in the opening exchanges, the Chaos army is ready. The Neptune's manoeuvre has proven successful in slowing the Orks' rapid advance on the left side. It is a gambit that may prove critical, for the Imperial defence, bolstered though they are by Eldar reinforcements, still looks fragile. Suddenly the pass echoes with the roars of the Orks and Chaos Marines as the order is given to launch the assault. The clamour is further amplified by the replies from the Imperial and Eldar warriors who roar their defiance. A grim smile spreads across Vessel's visage. Let them come! Make them play! In blood! The Vultures detachment Neptune opens fire at the Raptor cult, but once again the forest canopy protects those hidden under its boughs. A cult of speed quickly engages the Vulture squadron and, assisted by the support fire of jump pack Marines, light up the sky with heavy fire. 1, 2, 3 of the Vultures crash to the ground in flames. Once again the Night Spinners bombard the Marines in the forest. But again, the gods of chaos ensure that they emerge unscathed. The full might of the Imperial and Eldar is brought to bear on the massive hordes closing in, pincer-like from both sides. Falcons skim forward and hit the enemy line hard, inflicting heavy casualties in the ranks of a Speed Freak warband. Land Raiders, bolstered by a second Ork warband, launch a counter-attack. and 2 Falcons are destroyed and the last 3 are forced into retreat. But in this maelstrom of madness, there are acts of valiant heroism. 5 Stormtroopers, the sole survivors of a massacred Valkyrie unit, are cut off from the Imperial line, but fight on. Chaos Warbikes, 10 Marines on their hell engines, throw themselves at them, their bolters blazing. A soldier falls to the ground, but not before his sniper rifle dispatches 2 bikers and forces the others to flee. 2 speedsters target them, and another 2 soldiers fall under the combined might of the machine guns, light guns and rifles. The last 2 take cover in the fiery ruins of a Chimera tank. Perhaps they will survive yet. But no, the war boss, accompanied by 30 Orks and warbikes, finally ends this, the most desperate and heroic of defences under a hail of fire. As a massive Chaos and Ork force closes in upon them, Vessel launches a desperate gambit, and Valkyrie platoon Cassandra swoops towards enemy lines, unleashing a storm of missiles. They deal slaughter to the evil hordes. More importantly, their presence shields the entire Imperial army from more incoming fire. As the enemy closes in upon them, it is apparent that the moment of reckoning is upon them all. Despite the Eldar reinforcements, the Imperial line looks painfully frail. A bloodbath is assured. The only matter in question is who, if any, will survive it. A moment of serenity falls upon Vessel as he regards the huge encroaching horde before him, and he issues a final rallying cry. "Live or die, my brothers! Glory is assured!" The Stormtroopers platoon Cassandra opens fire on the first warband of speed freaks. Their ranks already thinned by the Falcons. The firestorm that engulfs the speed freaks forces them into a full retreat. The second warband is unmoved, and out to conquer. Their engines roar like thunder, and the Orks wild with the bloodlust of battle emit guttural cries of war as they plough headlong into the Stormtroopers platoon. Driven into a frenzy by their lust for speed and slaughter, the speed freaks slam into the Stormtroopers and show no mercy. Valkyries are crushed and Stormtroopers butchered in a terrible, horrifying massacre. The Stormtroopers platoon completely annihilated. The Chaos and Ork line is suddenly exposed to the overwatching alliance. Eldar Night Spinners bring their weaponry to bear, and their deadly web shreds a dozen warbikes in an instant. The destruction wrought by the Night Spinners is matched by the last 3 Falcons. As they cruise forward, they open fire on the Land Raiders, destroying 2 tanks and forcing the last 3 to retreat. The Ork leader, Ungrod, orders his cult of speed to engage the Night Spinners, and trashes all 3 in a barbaric attack. Chaos Warbikes assault the Falcons, supported by the might of the Ork Warband's fire. The Falcons are also destroyed, their fiery wreckage tumbling across the ground before exploding spectacularly. Such is the destruction and carnage that the battlefield is fast becoming both a junkyard and a cemetery. In another desperate maneuver, jet bikes are gunned forward. Flying over the wreckage and bodies of the fallen, they engage Ungrod's mob of warbike raiders. A vicious fight ensues. As Ungrod roars orders to his boys, one of the jet bikes swoops directly for him. The Ork warboss fails to recognise the danger, and the vehicle takes his head clean off. His head bounces across the fuselage and into the face of the rider. Ungrod, still conscious, bites into the helmet of the Eldar rider, his massive fangs piercing both armour and skull. The bike careers out of control and smashes into the ground, finally putting both combatants out of their misery. The battle is punishing for both factions, and both are forced into a hasty retreat. With the Chaos and Ork forces now close to breaking through the Imperial front line, the situation looks bleak for the tattered remains of Vessel's forces. If they are broken, Dakun and Damit's forces will not escape the planet. Determined to prevent that from happening, Wave Serpents surge forward and Guardians spew out. Supported by fire from ragtag Imperial formations, they assault the second Big Ork warband. The close quarters fighting is brutal and bloody, and the attrition great enough that the Orks are forced to flee. It's a decisive and critical moment in the battle, as the Ork plan to break through the Imperial ranks has failed. Chaos forces fall into an overwatch. The few human and Eldar survivors have done enough to allow the main invasion force to escape the world of fungus. But the victory has come at a heavy price. Although the Eldar step back through their portals to escape the carnage, Vessel's forces are too broken to make it back to the evacuation point. The Imperial force, its job done, retreats from the pass. Their fate, after the battle, became the stuff of legend. Some say they died defiantly on the slopes of Gorgolia, taking scores of heretics with them. Others claim they found refuge in the deep caves and caverns of the mountains, and still live on. But all agree on one thing. It is thanks to the sacrifices of Vessel and his men, and the Eldar who came to their aid, that the Imperial campaign did not end in failure. With both sides failing to prevail, the battle and the campaign on Fungus itself ends as a draw. As Dakun and Damit's forces evacuate Fungus, both reflect on their campaign. There is satisfaction of a job well done in the destruction of the 3 Ork factories. The Orks' plans to strike out from Fungus have been delayed for years, if not decades, but neither is there a sense of celebration. Imperial forces suffer such punishing losses that their adventure in Fungus is no triumph. Those who escaped still have their lives though, and perhaps that itself is victory enough. The war in Fungus is now over. The first chapter of the campaign comes to a close. But as the next begins, humanity faces a new threat.